We can rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have public participation and recognition. This is acceptance of gifts and donations, and this is an action item. That the Board of Education accept with gratitude the donation of $5,000 from Monsanto in a grant awarded to the Dekalb High School robotics team to support their first robotics activities and encourage local students who participate in the program. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Joe Aldrin.
Yes.
Chair Malak.
Yes.
Victoria Newport.
Yes.
Valerie Pena Hernandez. Yes. Howard Thompson.
Great thanks to Monsanto.
Yeah. $5,000.
A lot of money.
It is all right. This is the third year in a row that they've given the high school robotics team the money to compete. So without this money, we would not be able to compete with 50 other high schools in Chicago next month. So we are very gracious for this money. So we've given us a total of $60,000 so far. So very thankful for them supporting us.
That's fantastic. Thanks to them.
Next, we have public comment. Members of the public who wish to speak to the board should complete a request card prior to the meeting. This section of the meeting will be reserved for comments from the public. All comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Criticism of individuals is not in order. First, we have Margaret Cannon, and she would like to speak on gun violence in the schools and mental health.
Can Abby go first?
Sure.
Okay. Sorry.
All right.
Should I just stand here?
Absolutely. Or you can come out here in the aisle there. She's also going to speak on gun violence.
Okay. I'm Abby Alfaro. Okay. Last Monday, I approached the principal of Dekalb High School to discuss issues regarding the repetitive gun violence happening in schools. Today, I'm here to do the same with you. Here's exactly what I said. I am standing in front of you today to bring to your attention that I am sick and tired of being told now is not the time. Since the Parkland shooting on February 14th, there has been several more school shootings and multiple deaths because of these. There's been numerous threats, including one at our school, as well as neighboring schools, including Rochelle High School, Huntley Middle School, and Kishwaukee Community College. Not to mention that there was a threat made to our high school last year and the year prior. Even after all of this, we have done absolutely nothing to prepare ourselves in case something should occur. You are constantly reassuring us that we are safe in this building, but a couple of weeks ago when the alarms in the buildings were accidentally triggered, I myself had to tell my teacher what to do in emergency situations. And you know what? It was not his fault. Had that alarm been triggered purposely, all of our lives would have been in your hands because you are not preparing us or our teachers for these situations. Last year, a student from Sycamore High School spent the entire school day inside of Dekalb High School without permission, and not one staff member realized he was there. At first, I found the situation comical, but the more I thought about it, the more I recognized how truly terrifying that is. For all we know, there could be a school shooter roaming the halls right now, and there's nothing being done about it. This past Friday, after there was a threat made to our school, students were expected to go back to class and continue on as if nothing had happened. Students who had left in fear for their own lives were punished with unexcused absences. Students, athletes, were threatened with words such as these, and I quote, "This is a reminder to all winter athletes. Today is a normal day, and all handbook policies will be enforced. In order to participate in tonight's boys basketball game, you must be at the school for at least half the day." This came straight off the Dekalb High School athletics Twitter page. We had a gun threat, and we were forced to sit in a room for nearly an hour and a half with little to no insight on what exactly was happening, and you are going to call this a normal day? And for the students who chose to or were forced to stay at school, you made them act as if nothing had happened. You made them take tests, quizzes, and ignore what was actually going on in their heads. Students want to talk, but their voice is constantly being taken away by our elders. But guess what? I will not be silenced. I am sick and tired of entering the school every day, not knowing if I will make it home. Every day, our generation is told that we are lazy and need to grow up, but when we have our voices, you tell us to stand down. Well, guess what? We aren't standing down. This is our time. I don't care if I'm 17 years old, my life and mental health are to be valued every bit as much as each and every one of you in this room. So what I'm telling you to do as politely as possible is to get up and make a difference, because if you don't, we will, and we are not afraid to do so. I encourage each and every one of you, whether parent, teacher, principal, etc., to let your children or students have their voice. Let them speak their mind no matter what is on it. Even as children and young adults, we have the power to inspire others and make change. Please help us in the fight to keep our schools safe, because we are done living in this generation of violence. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Margaret Gannon, and she'd also like to speak on gun violence, schools, and mental health.
Although the emotions are high among students and teachers because of the Parkland shooting, we must not forget that our own town experienced just 10 years ago a school shooting within our very own NIU. I was in kindergarten at this time. I have always been affected by fear in my schooling. Just today, a student at Genoa Middle School was arrested for gun threats with set dates and a motivation to follow through. So we are not just bringing this up now. We are just now realizing, though, that we as students, as children, as teenagers have a voice. Although gun violence is the overlying issue, we need to recognize the root of the problem, mental health. We need to start supporting these students. We need to stand up and talk about these issues, even though they may be difficult to discuss. More and more students these days are having mental health related issues. We need to be there for the students that recognize this and those that don't. I just ask as kindly as possible to please rise up and discuss these issues and make changes, because we can never stop making this world a better place. Thank you.
I just want to take a minute to thank you two for coming. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to come here and speak in front of the board and share your concerns, and we definitely are listening. So thank you for doing that tonight.
Thank you.
We were challenged moments ago to do something and do it now. We were not challenged to put it off to the next meeting, to wait till the next closed session, or anything else like that. What in particular I heard is startling, that we have teachers, faculty, and students who are not well trained in whatever procedures they need to follow at a minimum. We need to schedule the conversation that we as board members have about at least the training and other such things that we can address. And we need to schedule that for, please state a date.
Well, Howard, I want to add to that. Being that I work at an elementary school, we talk about this a lot. And trust me when I tell you, this issue has not gone away. I talked to superintendent about, I know they go through training because we do the same type of training that Dekalb does. Everybody's got their own opinion, but for now, that right now is a pretty popular procedure, and we like it. And the only thing I'm a little bit disappointed in is I just think part of our procedure needs to be updated. So I've asked superintendent, so if we can bring somebody in that, it's all about basically alcohol kind of an alarm system to help out.
Well, let's get something on the agenda. Let's put it on the next agenda to at least talk about at the closed session so that we come up with
Well,
something.
what we can do on the next agenda is have a presentation on what those procedures are that we have currently and look at those.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's do that.
Okay?
Let's promise to do at least that much so that we can.
Well, we got to start someplace.
Not say that we've done nothing.
Well, right now, I'm looking right at Tammy and she's not even.
Yeah.
There it is, it's done.
Can I just say one thing? Ladies, the board just hired a significant number of people to assist with mental health issues. And I think that it was a huge deal for the board to do that in the last meeting. And so at the recommendation of staff. So that is a known issue, and it has been addressed, or at least part of it has been addressed. That's not it's just the beginning of the conversation, but it has by staff recommended, and the board took that recommendation up and recognized that it was that we are deficient, or we were deficient in that particular area. So at great cost, great expense, they have moved forward on that. So that is something that maybe you weren't aware of, but it is a significant step.
Well, and also, just to add to that again, I think when Stanley comes in and does a presentation, people are gonna be impressed with what they put in place. It's a lot of work doing that, and, you know, when it comes to lives, man, saving lives, there's no expensive, you gotta do it.
Thanks for bringing that.
Okay. Next, we have board committee reports and correspondence.
Last Thursday, I was able to attend the Kishwaukee Division dinner at Geneva High School. It was a really nice experience. From the moment I got there until the end, it was all student geared and student driven. So as I arrived at the high school students from the high school greeted us, took our codes. The orchestra was playing. The dinner itself was prepared by the Culinary Arts that is at Geneva High School. The interior design team, students actually put the tables together, the design of the tables. It was a really nice experience. Along with that were 3 presentations, and only 2 of them actually gave me information, and each board member that was there on the different programs they were presenting. So we had 3 school districts. The 3 topics that were covered were blended learning, and that was Huntley High School. It was a very nice presentation. I don't have anything to show you on the blended classrooms that they're providing, but I would like to talk about it just in brief. So blended learning is an experience in its career track so that students are able to experience somewhat what it will feel like to be in college. So they kind of, in the word I use, they didn't use the word hybrid, but it's a hybrid pretty much option for the students. So courses that typically don't fill up in the high school setting, they are able to fill up because they have that hybrid component. So they only go to class once a week. And then after that, you know, they go once a week and the rest is all online. So they had a lot of information and a lot of data to support how this benefits a non-traditional high school, but also a traditional high school. And I think this is something worth looking at as far as the high school goes and exploring that possibility, especially because it allows students to take courses that they wouldn't typically take. The next presentation was actually very good. And I don't know how to pronounce this district, and I apologize if I mispronounce it. I think it's Hanamida, and I might be mispronouncing it. The high school, they actually have a really cool program on entrepreneurship. So they partner up, and I think NIU, with NIU being local, that this is actually a great experience that probably we could look at too. They actually partner up with local banks, local businesses, and they create this whole entrepreneurship. So the students have this huge idea, this $1 million idea that they're able to produce with minimal amount of money, right? And some of the things that they have produced have actually made it to national level. One example is a skateboard they created that has had really good experience on YouTube and people actually wanting to buy that product. So ultimately, as a district, there's so much that we can do at a minimal cost to us. So this is worth looking at. I do have handouts on that. And the last one was Project Lead the Way, and that was Crystal Lake. And I know that our elementaries don't typically have a lot of STEM, but this is a good way to start looking at possibly offering STEM at a elementary level. And it isn't very expensive. It really isn't very expensive. I think there are ways that we can start hooking kids with STEM as early as elementary. So I have that information that I will share with us tonight. And the last one is the equity event. This is a free event to all board members and superintendent. This is something that was the LUDA executive director was there, and Laura Martinez, our division director, was there. They highly recommend that we attend this. This is free. It's on a Saturday from 9 to 3 p.m. It's in Lyle at the Hyatt Regency. And it is about equity. So especially our district, it was brought to my attention that we would benefit from something like this, as it is an equity training. It helps us understand the various equity issues in our own school district, critical steps for developing and implementing an equity approach on a school board, and gain insight and practical applications from Illinois school districts. So it is a very nice event to attend. It's free. I mean, you can't beat that. And it's on a Saturday. It would just take giving up part of our Saturday to do this. So I do have information on everything, and I will pass that on to you guys. Just wanted to share that.
That Saturday is coming up.
Yeah, the 28th of April.
I got a couple of things I'd like to share about the committee, and then one other thing. Maybe I'll go with this first because it kind of dovetails with what Val just said. I'd mentioned a meeting or two ago about Malta Public Library having a tutor there available. They've not had any great success with people coming, and they've realized that transportation is an issue. So I now have this little thing that I picked up on the way here tonight. They now are having this online tutoring service available through Skype or Instagram. I'll give you this, Jamie, and if you want to distribute it to anyone that's interested. They still have the same on-site tutoring offered Wednesdays and Fridays from 4 to 6 and Thursdays from 5:15 to 7:15. But now they also have, during that same time period, you can contact the young lady that's the tutor via Skype, or if you don't want your picture up there, you can use Instagram as it is. So anyway, just so that anyone is interested can know about this through the end of the semester. And then we'll see. I guess the library will look at it again after that point in time. Now let me go to committee meetings and so on. This speaks maybe just a little bit to what the two young ladies just shared with us in the public comment period. I've had numerous committee meetings that have been canceled for one reason or another. For instance, the Diversity Planning Committee was canceled. I think that was an attendance problem. It's been rescheduled for the 22nd, so hopefully that will go on. The Social Justice League did meet, as far as I know. I was not able to attend. Howard, do you know anything? Tyler?
Yes.
That did happen? Okay, good. So that did happen. Unfortunately, I was not. I was already pre-planned on that day. There was an insurance committee meeting that was canceled. There was a safety task force committee that was canceled. That was supposed to have been on January 29th. It's now been rescheduled for March 12th. And then on a good thing, as far as I'm concerned, I was personally interested in this. Jamie and Tammy and I met regarding the water situation, and it's well in hand as far as I can tell. So I'm really glad to report to the board that all that needs to have been done seems to have been done. And I think we're moving forward. I don't know whether Jamie or Tammy will say anything further going down the stream here, but I'm happy. I'm glad that we're where we are with regard to that. That was a state requirement that we did it, and we've complied with that. So that's just what I want to share about meetings. Many of these are, for instance, there was a meeting about that water thing, and I came in and met Jamie at the door. That was the day when the fellow was holed up in an apartment over by Clint Rosette. And we had to cancel the meeting for that reason. So there are many reasons, I think, why things sometimes don't go off as planned, but they are planned. Things are planned, and they will get done.
I'd just like to take a minute to congratulate our 62 juniors and seniors from the high school last night that were inducted into the National Honor Society. It was a very nice night, and that's, from what I understand, one of the biggest groups of students we've had here. So congratulations to all of them. Any other comments? Okay. I just would like to take a minute to read a statement from the board. On behalf of the board, I would like to make the statement in order to provide an update to the public on the status of the residency investigation. As a result of the public concerns raised over the residency issue and the filing of a lawsuit in federal court, the board instructed its attorney to perform a residency investigation in order to determine whether an actual problem exists, and if it does exist, what steps are available to the board. The residency investigation by the school district's attorneys continue and is now entering phase 3 of the investigation. The board has been informed that the investigation should be completed within the next 60 to 90 days. Once the investigation is complete, It is the intention of the board to publicly disclose the statistical findings of the investigation. The board appreciates the concerns raised by the public concerning the residency issue and requests your continued patience while the investigation is completed. As a result of the pending litigation, this is the only statement that will be made relative to the residency investigation. Next, we have the non-business consent agenda. This is an action item that the board of education approve the non-business consent agenda items A through I.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Jeff Albrecht,
Yes.
Carol Black,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Valerie Pena Hernandez. Yes. Howard Song,
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Next is business consent agenda. This is an action item that the Board of Education approve the purchase order requisition list as attached. We have a motion?
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Carol Black,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Valerie Pena Hernandez. Yes. Howard Song,
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Jeff Albrecht.
Yes.
Next is business and finance. Gary Kreshek Memorial Scholarship, and this is an informational item.
I'm going to go ahead and read a statement that was written by the family. This is regards to Carrie Kreshek. Carrie Kreshek grew up in Dekalb and was an outstanding student athlete throughout her early years. She won numerous ribbons and medals in swimming and diving and won the state YMCA diving championship before entering high school. Carrie was a Rolex Junior All-American golfer in 1982. Bob Heidinger, I'm sure I'm saying that. Heidinger. Okay, thank you. Was AD at DeKalb High School while Carrie was in high school and made it possible for her to compete in sectional and state tournaments where she competed as an individual, since this was before DeKalb High School had a girls golf team. She played twice at the state high school golf tournament and won the IHSA Golf State Championship her senior year. Her field hockey teams also won state titles her junior and senior years, and she scored one of her team's 2 goals in the state championship game against Lake Forest her last year. Carrie was very popular in high school and represented her class on the homecoming court her senior year. Carrie was a member of the women's varsity golf team while a student at University of Wisconsin-Madison. She graduated with honors, was a University of Wisconsin-Madison All-Academic All-Big Ten honoree in 1986-87. She obtained a MA degree in sports administration from DePaul University in Chicago and was making plans to obtain an advanced degree in physical therapy at the time of her death. She died in August of 1994, and the Carrie Kreshek Award has been continuously given since her family initiated the award in her name in 1995. I've been working with the family. They currently have a reserve fund here with about $38,000 in it, and the family continues to fund that reserve fund. So they wanted to somewhat formalize that. As they get older, they want to make sure that this award is out there for as long as possible. So I've worked with the family as well as with the attorney, our attorney, to put together this memorial scholarship distribution, reserve distribution document, just so we can formalize that process.
Do we have consensus then to bring this back as an action item?
Absolutely. I have a question for you.
Yes.
What are the terms of that scholarship? I mean, what does it go, what is it for, athletics? or-
Yes, it's for a senior female athlete. So there's some criteria that they look at in terms, and that's listed in here.
Scholarship included to a certain extent in that, or is it purely athletic?
There's some like citizenship scholarship, basically the whole, everything, yeah, so it includes that as well.
That's terrific. Thank you so much, and thanks to them.
Have we done it before, Cindy? Work directly with a donor like this?
Yeah, this one, in my past, this scholarship or this reserve fund has been in place for years. So when I started, it was in place as well. And we have done it with another one. And we actually have separate funds set up for this. So this isn't commingled within our district funds.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
I know that the DeKalb County Community Foundation does the
Yeah.
similar thing with donors, that want to dedicate to a particular place or entity.
Right. And they run that through their Foundation. This is actually
This is direct.
held in the district's name. We're the signatories, but it's a completely separate account dedicated for this purpose.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have the intergovernmental agreement, Dekalb Park District. This is an informational item. Annie?
Over the last several years, the district's been working with the Park District in regards to a potential land swap involving the property just west and south of Brooksville Elementary, which is owned by the Park District, and our school district property located on Bar Boulevard, which are the baseball and softball fields. And after many discussions, we have come to an agreement with the Park District in regards to land swap. The value of the properties do differ by $5,000, but due to some expenses that have been identified that we negotiated back and forth involving some surveys that needed to be done and other costs, we have gotten to the point that the costs are at a $0 difference in exchanging of these two properties. And so we are recommending that the board move forward with this agreement. There will be an easement granted between Kiwanis Park, currently owned by the Park District, and the baseball field at Huntley Middle School, so they will have a connection between their two parks because at this time, part of our property just south of our football field at Huntley does block that connection. So we are going to be granting them an easement as part of this agreement.
Well, I just want to thank you for the amount of effort. It's been a long haul to a certain extent, and it's involved a great deal of negotiation back and forth. Thank you very much for your work on that.
And Jamie, was part of that over the last few years.
You did.
Any other questions? Do we have a consensus to bring this back?
Yes.
Next, we have budget proposal, facility operations department, and this is an informational item.
About 4 years ago, a proposal was brought forward through our business office in regards to reduction to the facility operations or facilities budget, the operations and maintenance budget, to the amount originally of $500,000 a year for 4 years. This was when the Chromebooks were rolled out and we were looking for some ways to reduce those costs. So that was put into place with the plan for 4 years. We had reduced by $500,000 our facilities budget. And we did put back into the budgets $200,000 each year because we figured out pretty quickly that we needed to increase it to allow for just the standard expenses that come through. So for the last 3 years, we've had $200,000 put back in. Last year, I brought a presentation to the board asking for $216,000 to be added back in because of unexpected expenditures last year involving the mobile at Little John, involving lead in the water testing that was spoken about earlier, as well as opening of classrooms and a variety of other things. The total expenses actually came in under budget by about $21,000 of that $216 that was proposed, so the actual cost came in less. This year, what I'm coming forward to you is another proposal for an expansion. Since we are entering our 4th year of this budget reduction, there are some expenditures that we have delayed, some maintenance that's been delayed throughout our buildings and our equipment that I feel do need to be addressed. And I've outlined those in the attachment in regards to some equipment purchases that are necessary, as well as some improvements in the building that have been proposed. So with that, I bring that forward as a recommendation to the board and at the future meeting.
Questions? And do we have a consensus to bring this back at the next meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Next, we have requests to bid paper and office and miscellaneous supplies. This is an action item that the Board of Education approve the request to bid paper, office, and miscellaneous supplies. Any motion?
So moved.
Discussion? All right. Roll call.
Valerie Hernandez.
Yes.
Howard Feldman.
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Jeff Algren.
Yes.
Karen Mallette.
Yes.
Joanne Newport.
Yes. Next is facility operations summer staffing request, and this is an action item. Do we have a motion?
Can I ask a question first? I wasn't paying attention at the last meeting about this, because there's some information I'd like to have on this, so I apologize for that. So I was wondering if do I have to make a motion or ask if we can table this till the next meeting? Because what I'd like to know, Tammy, is how many you're bringing for summer help and where will they be working? Like, I know, painting, grounds, custodial, whatever.
If you'd like, I can answer that now.
Well, I want to think about it. If you don't mind emailing it to me, I appreciate that. I mean, otherwise, you can tell me, but.
Is the delay going to be problematic for you?
It won't be problematic, but the sooner that I can get individuals hired, especially as we're entering spring break for our college kids, and some of those students are in college that'll be applying, we would be able to interview during their spring break, which is next week, I believe, is when many of those breaks are happening. So I'd prefer if we could move forward tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
No, I want that information to think about it, honestly. Yeah. You can just email it to me, I appreciate that.
We need a motion. We need a consensus to move it to.
Yeah, just so.
Okay. So we need a motion to move that.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to move it to the next board meeting.
Do we have a second on his motion? No.
Okay.
But I would like you to have explain, even though we didn't get a second on that, it would be nice for you to explain it to us, if you would.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
In regards to the summer staffing, I don't have an exact number of staff that we would hire because over the past several years, when I started in this position, we used to hire all full-time. And we only went 40 hours. And then we determined that there was some flexibility that we could really use at our buildings if we hired some part-timers and full-timers to fill the summer role. So depending on the needs of the building and the construction projects that are planned each year, there could be a fluctuation on how many full-timers versus how many part-timers we're hiring, which is why we arrived this year at just a fixed dollar amount and staying within a fixed dollar amount for salaries, whether that's a mix of, 15, say 10 full-timers and 5 part-timers, or 10 part-timers and 5 full-timers, or whatever is determined. We do hire, as you know, we hire typically 2 full-time painters. We typically hire 3 grounds staff to supplement our ground staff, and then the majority of the remaining are moving and custodial. But those individuals are also not guaranteed that they're always going to be painting or grounds or whatever, custodial work or whatever it might be throughout the summer. They get shifted around depending on what the need of the day is. If it's raining, grounds doesn't have a lot to do, we might move somebody inside to do some cleaning or some moving that needs to be done. So that's the number. It's really determined based on the needs that are projected for the summer and which areas we would need them in. But I'm just asking to stay under that salary figure that we've been able to stay under in the past based on the mix of part-time and full-time.
Well, see, my purpose of this was because I'm looking at a way we can save money. So I had a conversation before the meeting tonight. I didn't really want to discuss it here tonight like this, but I guess I got no choice. I get, again, everybody knows I work in a district, so I get the fact you need extra grounds people. They're busy, mowing, striping, painting, taking care of fields. I get all that. I even like the idea of having a painting crew. But extra help for custodians, when probably 2/3 of your head custodians don't want that help because they're a nuisance, I'm all for kids making money in the summer. That's cool, but being a head custodian, the kind of problems that they cause is like, really, is it worth it financially? It's not worth it when you think about it. I mean, our district's been going for many, many years, and it's never yet failed to open up on time because of it not being clean. So that's why I'm just thinking we could probably save some money there by not hiring so many summertime custodians.
Well, I would like to make the comment, though, that opening up on time has been because we've had summer staff in there helping out. We have regular meetings with our custodial staff and our head custodians throughout the year, and there's a communication channel that's outlined. And if there are concerns regarding performance on summer staff, discussions happen. And if it is not corrected, we don't hesitate to let that temporary staff member go.
Well, I beg to differ on that because I know situations, but, you know, this has been taking place now for probably 7 or 8 years. And I know some people that's been here probably 16, 18 years before that. And they've never had summertime help like that, and they've always opened up on time. So that's gonna be an argument we're both gonna have, but since I clean and do buildings, I know what it's involved and what it takes. And again, I'm just trying to think of ways to save money.
I will point out another thing, that is that, you know, the budgets that have been approved in the past several years, we have come in 10 to 15,000 under the budgets that I'm asking for based on the way that we do manage the hours. And should there be a staff member that is not pulling their weight and we need to release them, we do. If we need to reassign them because it's raining and we need to be more productive somewhere else, we do that. And we've sent people home when they aren't being productive or when there isn't the work there to do. So when we do hire these people and say 20 or 40 hours a week, none of that's ever guaranteed. It's based on performance, it's based on need, and we strive very hard in our department to keep these under budget.
Well, the problem we have here is though every time we turn around and looking for new FTEs, it seems like every meeting we come in here, somebody wants to bring in more people. And I think obviously we have to look everywhere we can to save that money.
I would agree.
So I'd be a fool not to ask these questions, you know?
No, and I would agree, we are always looking for ways to save money.
Do you have,
Well, we gotta look at more ways to pay for what we want.
how many of those are custodial? Do you have a number on, you were talking about a number of them. How many of them are custodial?
Of course, are you talking our summer help that we would hire? In past years, when we've been at a max level, we've had probably 10 to 12 that are custodial staff that are spread around all buildings, with the exception of maybe the high school. That one, that crew handles on their own because we have a very condensed time frame after summer school is over to get that building cleaned. But the rest of them are spread out at the remaining buildings. And then
And a mix of 20 and 40?
we have for the last 2 years. This would be our 3rd year where we have a mix of 20 and 40, because we have determined some buildings, because of their size, they already have their head or lead custodian, they already have their second shift custodian working. And then we might just give them a half-time person, a 20-hour person, because they really don't have the need for a 40-hour. And when I'm hiring 16-year-old students, some of them just aren't really ready for coming to work at 6:30 in the morning, 5 days a week, and working a 40-hour week. So we have found that if we do want to hire those younger students, that this may be their first real job, it's better to hire them on a 20-hour week versus a 40-hour week right out of the gate.
Tammy, you have a lot of vacations stuff that occur.
Oh, absolutely. Our custodial staff, of course, takes a lot of vacations. This summer is even a higher need because we have one less week in the summer. You
I
know,
was under the impression, I was told that people weren't allowed to take vacations in June.
they are not, we have asked them not to take 2 consecutive weeks in June so that we can get a good kickoff to summer, but they are not restricted from taking any vacation. That's not what's been emailed out to the
Well,
staff.
you can keep coming up with excuses why you think you need it, when I'm gonna keep throwing excuses why you should. I'm trying
You're
to save
entitled to
money,
your opinion.
you're spending it. In my opinion, it's my experience, what I do.
And Tammy, the figures that I saw had a reduction, you were under budget on this part of thing last year.
Yes.
And is there any increase in the workload that you anticipate, possibly because we have extra cleanup at Cheeseboro in order to get ready for Camel Eye, or something like that, that justifies an increase in budget, or are you, where do you think this is going to land?
Well, last year's expenditure was significantly lower than previous years, and part of that was we had issues with getting people to actually come to work after they accepted the position, and all of a sudden we started the summer and they were no-shows, or they showed for a short amount of time and then stopped coming to work. And in that case, to get them back and hire some other individuals, get them in front of the board for approval, we've run out of summer hours. So we just kind of got by last summer. It was an ideal situation. There were buildings that didn't get done to the level that I would have expected them to. We have had a full staff that summer, but the costs were significantly lower last year than previous. Going into this year, we do have a one week less summer because of the
earlier start to the school year. So that does increase that need. The staff members will be coming back a week earlier. In addition, with the Lincoln HVAC project, I won't be able to get in to clean that building until they start releasing rooms or areas to us as the construction project is done. So at some point, I'm going to have to drop a whole crew at Lincoln and say, hurry up, get it done. The teachers and staff are ready to come back next week, and they're going to be knocking on our doors when we get into that building. So it'll be critical to have enough staff members at that time to get the work done too.
Budget-wise, what happens if you do come in on the budget again? Where does the money go?
It basically goes into the reserve, into the fund balance, basically be used in the future. It basically goes into a savings account, which is basically our fund balance.
Thank you.
Tammy, historically, have the custodians been help? Do they like the help? I mean, we don't.
We regularly have meetings, with our head custodial staff, and we have a kickoff meeting at the start of the summer to make sure that the message is clear to our entire facilities department. My feeling was that they do want to make sure they have a good help, someone that is good help, and if there's a problem that as management, we're willing to address that issue. And if it doesn't correct itself, then we need to, not have that person dragging down the team. But I would find it extremely difficult, I feel, to be able to get all of these buildings cleaned without some additional support.
And you have the ability you have the flexibility to get rid of somebody who's not performing.
Yes, they're temporary. They can walk in and if we need to part ways, we part ways.
She's just told us that, yeah, you have the flexibility, but there's a time constraint, right? So depending on how quickly you realize there's an issue with someone, you may or may not have time enough to get a replacement person.
That's correct.
Back in.
For the replacement, because of board approval required, as well as we still have to put them through the HR process. Not like I can interview somebody today and they can start tomorrow.
Yeah. And last year you asked for 55 and you spent 39K. This year asking for 60 and you don't know. But we can't really use that 39K number as a benchmark because we had employee problems last year.
And I will also point out the reason I've asked for more than the 55 that was asked for last year, I'm asking for this 60 this year, is because there will be 2 of our union staff positions that will be have a reduction in force due to the NNU contract coming to an end. So that's 2 less bodies that are on our team, which would then be part of adding 2 more to our summer, or their hours, their costs to our summer.
Okay. The hours, you mentioned 6:30 in the morning is starting time. We're talking about summer and there's 15 to 20 hours of daylight in a day. Why are we necessarily looking at 6:30 in the morning starting time?
Well, part of it is the management of the staff. If we can keep the majority of the staff on the same start time, from a management perspective, it does make that easier within the building for the heads that are working with them or the lead groundsman or whoever it might be, as well as depending on the temperatures. When we have wax that is, setting and sealing, there are times and temperatures of the day that are better than others.
Okay, so let me read the motion here again. That the Board of Education approve the employment of temporary staff for a 10-week period for an amount not to exceed $60,000. We have a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second? Roll call.
Howard Solomon,
Yes.
Fred Davis,
No.
Jeff Albert,
No.
Gary Millat,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Keller Pena Hernandez.
Yes.
Next, we have new business and administration, high school counseling summer hours, and this is an informational item. Christy?
Every year, I come to you with summer proposals for additional hours for our counselors. Typically, I come to you for both, you'll see another one right after this for the middle school counselors as well. In the past, I've also come to you about nursing additional hours. Last year, I'm just reminding you, challenged me, I believe, you, Carrie, challenged us to look at ways that we can reduce those summer costs. And we have done that. I'm not coming to you with certified school nurse hours per diem at all, because we have pushed back that start when our immunizations and physicals are due, we push that back, which allows time for our nurses and our registered nurses and our certified nurses to take care of that business at the start of the year. There will be a little bit of our end time in order to get our middle school and high school athletes. But the item today is about our high school counselors. They need additional hours during the summer in order to take care of scheduling conflicts, to adjust their course selections based on grades from second semester, as well as adjust course selection because of summer school classes that the students take. Besides that, we have new students that start in the summer, come and enroll in the summer, and our high school counselors need to take time out of their summer to come into work to make sure that those students are, one, we're getting their information from the school from which they're transferring, and then two, get them into our system and get their schedules ready. All of that, we did some homework a couple of years back, comparing what we were offering our counselors, the work that they need to do, and compared that with our neighboring districts as well as LUDA districts, and we came up with this 90 hours per counselor. And that is actually what they have also documented for us in the last 3 years. They really do use more than that, but certainly it equals out to 15 days at 6 hours a day. But we do it hour so that if they want to put more hours in a day, they can.
And that's the two.
I'm sorry.
That's 90 hours per person.
Oh, that is correct. 90 hours per person, and we have 6 hours. Okay. Is that what I misunderstood? Did I misunderstand you? Okay. So that is the first. Any questions that you might have?
Yeah, Christy, I know in the past when we've had these conversations about the counselors and the staff that help with the kids over the summertime, we discussed, particularly the Chicago School District, not being able to send us documentation. Is that still an ongoing problem? How does that factor into what you're asking for?
It isn't an ongoing problem. It's not just the Chicago public school system for sure. And what that does is does it put bumps in the road for our counselors? Absolutely, because then they need to do some quick assessments and to determine where students would fall. Would you like to respond at all to that,
Just
James?
anecdotally, we had a transcript from Pakistan recently that had to, and it looks, if you get a transcript from Pakistan versus a transcript from Canelan with a move-in student, it's just going to look different in trying to determine where those students place. And it really requires counselors' eyes on that.
One of the things I thought of regarding something like that is assessments. I mean, how do you test the kid, or can you test the kid?
We do have built into this, we do have an assessment coordinator who facilitates some math assessments. It's key when you have a student at the freshman level move in, because of placement within math in particular, is a student ready for algebra, they're ready for geometry. The other thing, keep in mind that many districts will schedule classes at 85% capacity. To save an FTE, we schedule more like 90, 95%. In some cases, 100% capacity. So in that case, a good auto run of a master schedule will put you about 80%-ish. So when you run the system as tight as we do, having they really come in with a scalpel. So they're actually saving us in FTE. Approving this allows us to run the FTE a little bit tighter.
So you're saying that our understanding, what we think is our understanding of these kids that come in, needs to be very good, because we're so close to the edge with availability of spots.
Correct. Particularly if we have students that they're receiving support because of an IEP.
Yeah.
Yeah, and why you need really skilled eyes on those transcripts.
Well, and also, as Christie pointed out, a lot of the work in summer, because we have extensive summer school, is going back and balancing schedules after we run the master schedule in the spring, and we have it where we feel like it's a pretty good run, ready to go. Then you have students that take classes and successfully pass classes, and you have to go back and make changes then in the schedule, rebalance some sections. And again, as James pointed out, when we're running numbers, class sizes that are as tight as they are, it's an art for our counselors then to build an individual schedule amongst all the balloon sections and the sections that are actually available. And then take on top the new students who come in and trying to determine where they fit, not only with what classes, but they also, not every school has the same number of credits, same number of graduation requirements. So that's a whole process in of itself as well.
So speaking of summer school, that reminds me of another question. I remember when Tim was here and we talked about not doing summer school for middle school.
Correct.
So how does that factor in with what you're asking?
This we're talking about high school, and for high school, we do have, actually, we're broadening our opportunities for our high school students in the summer.
If I could, it actually adds another layer of complexity because we absorbed that FTE, which means we're going to run more sections. So it puts us, off the top of my head, 700-800 kids taking classes in the summer. All of their schedules are going to need to be reviewed because we'll have kids successfully complete classes. It's typically a safe bet that students are taking what we call get-ahead credits will successfully complete it. It's in the 90% year after year successfully complete. So we know that those students are going to successfully complete those credits and quite honestly take precautions in the spring where they're scheduled. We count on those schedules not changing. It's those repeater sections and the FTE that we absorbed from the middle school, we put in place to support our struggling students. So we're looking at running more get-ahead or credit recovery opportunity for students in the summertime. Those you don't have that 90% success rate because of various factors of those kids. Not as many of them were successfully completing in the summertime. A lot of times, unfortunately, because of attendance. But those schedules do need to go back and be tweaked.
I have a question. Go ahead. My question is this. This seems, this is not unexpected expense. I mean, this is an expense that comes up regularly.
Each year.
Is this a budgeted item? I mean, are we confirming on a budgeted item, or is this new, or what is it that we are making a decision on, whether we have flexibility within this budgeted item, or what is
It's a budgeted item. It's been in the budget for years.
Right. We need this stuff. The only decision is whether we need more for some particular reason than we would normally need, but that doesn't sound like it's the case. We're staying within our framework, correct?
That is correct. I'm asking for this is the same amount as was requested last year.
Right. So it's basically budgeted. We have this within our budget, and it seems like that it has verifiable results. We have some record keeping on this that from past years that we do well by this program, right? So
For sure.
okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
For our counselors, how many days per year do they work? Do you have a day number that just normally?
180.
Yeah.
180. Why don't we just make that, if we need 90 hours for each one of them, why don't we turn that into, say, 191 days? So
Essentially,
we don't
that's
have
what
to do
this
this
is.
yet.
This is per diem. And essentially because they follow the DCTA contract. And so this is above and beyond their contracted hours.
But some of these hours will cross the fiscal year, because they're not working all these days in June. Some of them are coming in after summer school is over to balance schedules to, right. So it's not like they're working X amount of consecutive days. we're saying they need this many hours to take care of all of the summer work due to summer school, due to new students coming in. And so it would be difficult to put them on an extended contract because, again, it wouldn't be a consistent contract. It's going to cross into next year.
So a part of this is going to be paid at next year's salary?
No,
They'll be paid at whatever their salary is right now for this summer. Because the new contract technically, the new contract year doesn't start until the new school year starts.
So back to my original question, why don't we just add this to the number of days?
This provides us some flexibility as well. Because not all of them are gonna work the whole 90, some may work less than that.
It's an average.
Okay.
So the question I had was,
Yes.
how many counselors do we have at the high school? This is laid out for six, right? Okay. All right, now, does any of this qualify for any type of reimbursement money for this? No?
No. All right, roll call.
I think it's under.
Oh, it's just information. Okay. So do we have a consensus then to bring this back? All right. Okay, next we have middle school summer work for middle school counselors, and this is an informational item. Christy?
Yes, okay, and so at the middle school level, we have actually 3 different programs or reasons for us to extend summer hours for our middle school counselors. There's WEB, which is a transition programming that our counselors work with 8th graders to help transition 6th graders in. And that's a wonderful program. That would be paid at the $25 an hour rate. Then there is where they have teams that work during the summer to prepare advisory lessons. That will be then part of the social emotional learning of the next year. They'll be doing that again at that $25 an hour rate. And then the third reason that our counselors get together in the summertime is similar to our high school counselors. They meet with new students that are newly enrolled. They finalize schedules, and they really do a nice job of touring this, getting the students in, giving them a tour, and giving them that orientation. And so that would be a total, those 3 opportunities would be a total of around $98.75. The reason I say around is because the middle school counselors, they're 15 hours each. Yes, 15 hours each is at that per diem rate, because that is doing work that they typically would do during the school year.
That bigger than 98?
That would be the total for all 3 of those activities that they do, the summer work that our middle school does.
$9,875.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Questions for Christy? Do we have a consensus to bring this back?
Yes.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank you.
Next, we have summer school driver education FTE increase, and this is an action item. That the Board of Education approve the increase of 1.0 FTE for summer school driver education for the 2017-2018 school year. Do we have a motion?
Did you lose somebody?
We have a motion?
So moved.
For a second?
Second.
All right, discussion.
Did we lose somebody? We gaining that?
No, we've increased in students, so what we call rising sophomores, meaning freshmen transitioning into sophomore year, number is higher than it has been before. What this allows us to do is have more sophomores take it in the summer, depending on their birthday, take it in the summertime, so it frees up students to have the opportunity to take it during the school year. Otherwise, we have to start turning students away. And then they're stuck going to private. Or come back to the board and ask for increase in driver ed FTE. There's only so many students we can fit into a car. And then they need certain hours of on-the-road experience.
This gives me an opportunity to discuss this issue. I've thought of it in the past, I haven't really thought of it recently, but this gives me an opportunity to talk about it. What do we feel, or what do you feel as the principals of the high school, is our obligation to teach kids how to drive? I mean, as opposed to the balance of.
Jeff, it's graduation required.
Well, I understand, but we also have issues related to whether they get it private or with us, right? I mean, so are we then, I understand that part of the graduation part, but as far as, is it our obligation to fit every possible student into that schedule? I got that. I mean, it's a more subtle question,
Well,
which is people get private lessons all the time.
If we don't have summer driving and expand who were driving those 6 hours.
Per need, I mean.
Yeah, and at one time it wasn't as difficult because it was 3 hours, after the 3 hour mark, and James, you can correct me if I'm wrong. There was an adjustment about 3 years ago. The behind the wheel instructor used to be able to clear them after a certain amount of hours. I think it was 3. And then they said it's a mandatory 6. So even if they are a proficient driver behind the wheel, they still have to drive the 6 hours. And
total?
It is still 6, correct, James?
It's still 6.
Yes. So in increments of, probably 15, 30 minutes.
Times all our students.
Yes. So if we don't keep up, what happens is we have kids who will be way behind getting their license, way behind their birthday.
Well, it just becomes that snowball effect, the longer kids are, now you're taking it for junior year, now you're not being able to backfill with the other kid. And really, you should be taking it on the sophomore.
Because the state also changed the number of months that you have to have your permit.
The state's making it more difficult for younger kids to get driver's license. And if we limit the opportunity for them to take it sophomore year, then the priority goes to juniors, which means we have to turn more sophomores away. So.
It is a way to actually save money, the summer hours, because if we're not driving kids in the summer, then we're driving more kids in the school year.
Right.
Which means we would be coming back saying, we need another 0.5 or 0.4 FTE so we can get kids behind the wheel.
And the kids show up for driver ed in the summertime. They do. 7 a.m. they're there.
Because they want to drive.
Correct.
Not really.
In some cases, mom and dad want them to have that license when they're 16 because now you have a chauffeur to help show their brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
You bet. Yep, qualifications on that too, right? They can't drive.
I wasn't being adversarial there. I mean, I was just simply trying to seek clarification. My son didn't drive, didn't get a license until he was 18, 19, somewhere 18 years old. He chose not to drive.
I'm curious, do you have any idea what the cost per student behind the wheel is versus private education?
Not off the top of my head. No, I know that it's cheaper through us.
No, Moonlight charges the exact amount.
They're pretty similar. We have one agency in Dekalb County. I think it's maybe no more than $50 more.
$25.
But they pick you up at your house and stuff like that.
All right.
So that seems to indicate our efficiency factor is in the ballpark, right,
Yeah.
with private enterprise.
Voting on.
Adding
Getting 1.0 FTE for summer school driver education. All right, roll call, please.
Art Davis.
Yes.
Jeff Albrecht.
Yes.
Carrie Malak.
Yes.
Tori Newport.
Yes.
Alexandra Hernandez. Yes. Howard Song.
Yes.
All right, with that, the meeting will be adjourned. All in favor?
Aye.